This is my main Neocaridina colony. I've been selectively breeding this line for one specific goal, which is the rich, deep blue coloration. But not all shrimp keep that color. Some start to show grey or clear bodies, and while they're perfectly healthy, they don't match the look that I'm aiming for. And these are the ones that I've called, or more gently put, assorted out. Most of them are a result of mixed genetics or just weaker expression of color. And since I sometimes sell or trade the shrimp from my main colony, I want to keep the line strong and visually consistent, which means removing any that don't carry the color traits I'm selecting for. Now, if you're just keeping shrimp for fun, you absolutely do not need to do this. A mixed group is totally fine for most hobbyists. But if you're breeding for quality or planning to sell later, this kind of separation really helps. Today, I'm turning this group of assorted shrimp into a small but happy setup of their own, which is a low-tech shrimp jar. So it should be simple, low maintenance, and a perfect home for the shrimp that just need another home. So the first thing we need for the scape is the bowl. Next up, we need to add a layer of substrate as well. And next we need some rocks, because I have some plants and some moss, and instead of just throwing it in there, I would like to actually glue them onto something. So we need some kind of small rocks that can go in there. So now we can clear out the old container where the shrimp was, but in order to do this, we need a bucket.
Okay, so now comes the time where we actually have to clean out the old jar, which I have here on the right. And the way I'm going to do it is to start off just by grabbing the pothos and taking that out. You can place that in here. And then we're just going to take the jar and we're just basically just going to remove everything from inside. And you can see the shrimp came out there. So that's good. See, these are the ones that are off-colored, while I'll just grab the rest of the plants in here. The moss and the anubias. And we'll just check if any shrimp are left in here. Does not seem to be. Good. So we can move on. The next job that we need to do now is to clean the old jar so we can reuse it. And then we have to remove some algae from this top here. Okay, so the bowl has now been cleaned and it does look quite a bit better. It's not 100% clean. You can see there's still some marks here at the front. But yeah, it definitely does look better than it did in the beginning. So that's good. Now I'll move on to removing some of the algae from the moss and the plants you can see up here. And then we can begin scaping afterwards. So I have now removed most of the algae from the moss, and I've got quite a good portion here. But yeah, because I've had absolutely no filter in here whatsoever, there's no filtration going on. It's mainly just the pothos and the plants that gets to suck out nutrients, and the fact that the snails have been breeding in here, so that's quite a lot. There is quite a bit of excess of nutrients, so the algae will form in that way. So I think I'll just be done now with preparing the plants, the anubias here. I'll have to propagate as well into some smaller stems, and get the rest of the moss up as well. But yeah, that's it, and then we can begin putting the gravel in. So when you do have an anubias like this one, you do see some of the leaves here are not in particularly good shape, but we do still have new growth down here. So we'll just take off the leaves that are yellowing. That will mean that the plant doesn't need to spend time getting nutrients to these leaves that are looking a little bit wobbly, and can prioritize getting nutrients to the new growth down here instead. Okay, so apparently there was a hole in the back, so I've made a mess of everything. But now that the gravel is in, we can move on to the next step, which is to glue all of this onto some of the small rocks of slate that I have here. And all of this slate I also had in excess when I initially built my terrarium enclosure for my leopard gecko. So this will be glued onto this, and I'll use this gel-based super glue to glue it on, and I'll also have some water to spray with so that it will react. Okay, so I'm now done gluing all of the moss and the anubias onto some rocks, and I think it's gotten pretty good. Everyone has a rock. Not all of the anubias are looking equally great, but the moss certainly is looking good. I think we should be able to create something very good with this. So now comes the fun part, actually placing everything together. Okay, so the main thing that we need to consider when planting everything is that the back area over here is actually where the roots of the pothos will go. And I've tried to the best of my abilities to tie the roots together so they won't spread as much, and it will make it easier for me to plant everything around it. But yeah, I think we're good now. So the composition that I have in mind is to have some moss around pretty much all of the edges. So that's what I'll begin with. I have my tweezers here, which I will do the best to put them in. And this should stay submerged. But yeah, the moss will be at the foreground, and then the anubias will be further back. This one will be difficult to find. I'll just put down maybe this way it works. Let's try and move it a bit to the side. Yeah, I think that looks better. And we have the final piece of Anubias, and I'll put this behind the smaller one over here. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then we have just a final piece of moss, which I can see there's room for here along the back section. Good. All right. Let's see whether the pothos roots actually will fit. So I have the pothos here. They will go in there, and the plant will be on, and it should be good. All right. I'll put the pothos back, and now we'll fill it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this water because that's the water they come from, and that has all the beneficial bacteria and stuff that they need. So I'll use this about 30% of the way, I think, and then I'll just fill it up with some new tap water the rest of the way. If you live in a place where there's chlorines or other contaminants in the water, I would not suggest doing this. I live in a region where the tap water is pure and there's no chlorine in it, so that's why I can use my tap water. But please check before you do this whether your tap water has chloramines or any other contaminant that could be potentially harmful. The Neocaridina as well, you typically prefer harder water, and my water is hard, which also fits the profile. If you have softer water, you might need to add calcium or some other minerals to it as well. But yeah, let's fill it up. Okay, now the water's back in. I did manage to catch one of the shrimp, as you can see here, on the way when refilling the water. So I think now it's time to put in all of the other inhabitants back into the jar. Okay, so the inhabitants are now all back in the jar, and there were only actually 4 shrimp that I needed to put in here, and that's also the reason why such a small jar is actually okay. If there were more, if I had 20 or so, I would have needed a way bigger jar. But this should do. I mean, they've been staying in a similar situation for a long time, so I don't think there should be any problems. I'll add the pothos back when I put it back in its place. But until then, yeah, I'm just gonna show you some cinematics of the inhabitants in the right element.